Hey there, CineManiacs, how's it going? And I hope you're all doing fine. Ever imagined a day when you go to school and everybody around you is behaving differently? The teacher that is supposed to be some sort of a jerk is actually being a very nice guy. That one teacher who used to be the, gullible personality is suddenly an assertive person. That one girl who never even liked to look at you is suddenly actually going behind you and wants you head over heels. Yeah, it sounds something like, hypnotism in its own way, but definitely it's not. Today's video review is definitely going to be about one of 90s most coolest movies, a movie that can kind of inspire an entire generation in its own way. A movie that is by far one of the best films I've ever seen in that entire decade. A movie that I've actually grown on to love for the last couple of years, and I definitely aspire to buy a DVD of this film someday when I go to the UK. Well, today's video review is going to be about the 1998 movie called The Faculty, directed by Robert Rodriguez, and here we go. The Faculty is a 1998 American science fiction horror movie, or whatever you call it, as directed by Robert Rodriguez, and it stars an ensemble cast of some of the best known faces of the 90s who were like teenage heartthrobs back in the day. I wasn't even born then, so I have no clue about what these actors have accomplished outside, the movie that we are talking about today. Although I've heard that Elijah Wood has made his career in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and of course you have Jordana Brewster, who has made some sort of a career in the Fast and Furious movies and other movies outside the Fast series. Apart from that, I also remember Josh Hartnett, who by far is one of the coolest characters in the whole movie. I'll get to that in the review, but his career also boasts of cool movies like Oppenheimer and Black Hawk Down, something that I might do down the line, a review of course. The Faculty definitely has to be a very very cool movie in its own regard. The characters, the entire school setup, the soundtrack, the suspense, and of course the dialogues in the movie, the climatic portions. It has inspirations from different movies of the past. I'll get to that in the next section of the video, but nonetheless it happens to be one of the coolest teen exploitation movies ever. No wonder why the film definitely gets an R rating. And you wouldn't believe me, it wasn't anything big of a success back in 1998, but right now it's a cult film. And you wouldn't believe if I told you that this is at least miles better than The Fast and the Furious in ways, according to Jordana Brewster, because she never imagined this film being such a huge, success or something. But now it has a cult following, and believe me, when you look back at this movie and you see the actors today, you definitely will see some sort of nostalgia that there was a time when they did look baby faced and very very young. And yeah, that is the entire thing about these characters. They were young, they were cool, they were absolutely hip, and they had a great sense of fashion. Something that I'll get into the next section of the video. The Faculty definitely has to be one of the most unusually scary movies ever made, because it has so many themes just juxtaposed into it so very brilliantly and so very, intellectually, that you can kind of enjoy the movie in a way without questioning what's going on. It is the sort of movie that will make you feel okay, A-lister actors can also do B movies. I mean, imagine Robert Patrick, Famke Janssen, Salma Hayek actually starring in a movie that is a teen exploitation film. Of course, I can't just imagine the idea that they agreed to star in this movie, and by God, this has to be one of the best, acting roles they've ever made. The whole movie's plot is pretty simple. Casey essentially finds out that aliens are taking over the whole school, and he convinces some people around him who are, of course, not his close friends and who don't even look up to him as a friend. And this, ragtag bunch of people basically tries to protect their school and, of course, the town from getting infected by this hydrophilic alien who is from outer space and has a very different weird story to begin with. Of course, the movie has extreme similarities with films like The Thing, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and The Breakfast Club, but it has its own uniqueness. The soundtrack for most of the part is the USP of the entire movie. I still like Another Brick in the Wall Part 1 and 2, and of course the other songs that were in the background that I may not have known the names of, but yeah, they were really cool to begin with. At least apart from the songs, I would also like to say that the introductions to the characters was absolutely cool and very very fashionable, something that I've not seen in a very very long time in a Hollywood movie. And I don't think they'll ever make another Faculty, at least for our modern generation Z, because it will be ruined. Trust me, it will be completely ruined. Unpopular opinions aside, The Faculty definitely has to be one of the finest movies of its genre. Not because of the fact that the star cast eventually went to be, very, very big people in their own regards, but somehow this movie essentially proved that sometimes we can have an R rated teen movie with, of course, a good story, a believable story. The characters are absolutely relatable, and sometimes I kind of think my high school was pretty similar to, Harrington High. Believe me, it was very similar to Harrington High in ways you can never ever imagine. At any rate, somehow, the movie basically has a very short runtime. That is one of the biggest USPs of the film, no question about that. And the rest of the part of the video will basically cover things like, how the actors were, the performances, and the negatives, and I'll wrap up the video very soon. The Faculty stars an ensemble cast. It has Elijah Wood, Jordana Brewster, it has Shawn Hatosy, you also have Robert Patrick, Famke Janssen, some of the most coolest names of the 90s. And by the way, Famke Janssen and Robert Patrick were already part of, the James Bond franchise and the Terminator franchise respectively. That is a huge achievement to begin with. The acting for most of the part by all the characters is absolutely cool. One of the performers who essentially stands out of the entire crowd is Josh Hartnett. Josh Hartnett was that particular guy who actually, went on to star in very, very iconic films like Oppenheimer and of course Black Hawk Down. Something that I might do a movie review of on my channel. If I can do it, I'll definitely do it. But Josh Hartnett's Zeke has definitely got to be the most relatable and the most coolest character of the entire bunch. A guy who makes cat in college, oh sorry, school, and he sells it around in school. He drives a car of his own and he has an attitude. And of course, he has some hots for older women. YouTube, please don't censor this out. At any rate, somehow Zeke is the best character in the entire movie. Elijah Wood is definitely a pretty unconventional character in my regard because he doesn't have the conventional heroistic looks or something, but yet he has a charm about him. Jordana Brewster, I can't imagine that this is the same Jordana Brewster who would go on to star in The Fast and the Furious, which came out almost, 2-3 years after this movie, and yet it is really weird to look that she was so good at 18, of course. At barely the age of 17 or 18, she was such a mature performer in this movie. That's still beyond me. All the other characters and all the other actors did a fine job, of course. I think that, out of the entire bunch, Famke Janssen's character is the most hilarious one, if you would actually agree with me, because many people would say that Robert Patrick was hilarious. Of course, the video montage is pretty much an evidence of the fact that Robert Patrick was the most hilarious one, but yet Famke Janssen had some weird, you know, sort of sexual tension with Zeke, and that is one thing that I can never forget in this movie. It is probably one of the most hilarious plot lines to ever exist. The Faculty obviously has too many inspirations, and these inspirations sometimes do more harm than good. The entire, principal cast of the children of the school, that is the teenagers, they are basically an offshoot of the Breakfast Club. A complete offshoot of the Breakfast Club. The, drug testing sequence is basically nothing more than a, cheap parody of the blood test scene from The Thing. Another iconic horror movie that I'm going to do a review of sometime this year. But of course, I'll not do it now. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, of course, in the sense that the characters start behaving very weirdly. This is something that Invasion of the Body Snatchers managed to pull off really well. I might do a movie review of that as well sometime. But nonetheless, in spite of all the negatives of the film, there is way too many inspirations, and sometimes the special effects don't hold up that well. The Faculty was a pretty enjoyable movie, very very enjoyable movie. I mean, I and my sister often go back and watch this film again and again during our summer breaks, and we do not exactly think to question about why we enjoy it so much, because we love it so much. We enjoy it so much so that we watch it almost every summer, and I'm even watching the movie at the moment you're watching this review. Imagine how funny and how cool this movie is. This was the entire review for the day, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video, who has ever watched it till this point. Take care, stay safe. Please keep buying films on physical media. That's the best and the most amazing way to protect movies for long. You also, have the wholesome right to watch any kind of movie you want to. Just love it, protect it. Take care, guys. Stay safe, and bye con Dios.